Forget the gleaming marble legions and the noble senators debating in the forum. Forget the grand histories of emperors and conquests. The Roman Empire was not built on the strength of its armies, but on the silent, unending labor of millions of people who were not considered people at all. They were property, instrumentum vocale, the speaking tool. Tonight, we will not walk the halls of power. We will crawl through its hidden passages. We will see the magnificent, sun-drenched villa not through the eyes of the master who owns it, but through the eyes of the slave who maintains it. We will learn how the beautiful mosaic floors were kept clean, how the elaborate banquets were served by invisible hands, and how a single misplaced word could mean the difference between a meager existence and a brutal end. This is the story of a nightmare that fueled the Roman dream, a guide to surviving a single day when you own nothing, not even your own body. Now, before we begin our journey into this world of silent servitude, and you get comfortable for the night, if you enjoy this kind of deep dive into the past, please take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely find value in what we do here. I'd also love to know where you're watching from and what time it is in your part of the world, so feel free to leave a comment below. It's always fascinating to see where these stories travel. All right, the time has come. Find your most comfortable position, dim the lights, let the noise of the modern world fade away, and allow yourself to drift back in time to a place of sun and shadow, of luxury and despair. Our story, your story, begins in the darkness before dawn, in the year of our Lord 78, in a sprawling villa nestled on the green slopes of Mount Vesuvius. The air is still, cool, and fragrant with the scent of pine and citrus groves. The world is asleep, but not everyone. His name is Licinus. He does not know his family name or the place where he was born. Those things were taken from him, along with his freedom, when he was just a boy. He is now a man, perhaps 30 years of age, though he does not count the years. He only counts the days, surviving one at a time. He is a domestic slave, one of dozens who live and work in the villa of the wealthy senator Gaius Valerius Metellus. His world is not the world of vibrant frescoes and sunlit gardens. His world is a small, windowless cell in the ergastulum, the slave quarters, a semi-subterranean warren of stone and damp earth. There is no beauty here. There is only the smell of unwashed bodies, of stale air, and the faint, ever-present odor of fear. His bed is a simple straw pallet on the hard-packed dirt floor. His blanket is a single, coarse wool cloth. His purpose is not to live, but to serve. His goal for the day is not happiness, or fulfillment, or even comfort. His goal is simple, and it is the same every single day: to be invisible. To perform his duties so perfectly, so silently, that the master and his family barely notice his existence. For in this world, to be noticed is to risk a harsh word, a blow, or the sting of the whip. To survive is to become a ghost, a silent, efficient phantom that keeps the great machine of the villa running. And his day, like every other, is about to begin in the cold, absolute darkness, long before the sun even thinks of gracing the beautiful world above. There is no gentle transition from sleep to wakefulness. Sleep for Licinus is not a peaceful refuge, but a shallow, gray state of non-being, a brief pause in a life of endless exertion. It is a temporary cessation of pain and fear, nothing more. The awakening, therefore, is not a slow return to consciousness, a gradual awareness of the morning light. It is a sudden, violent jolt,
a summons from the depths of a dreamless void. It comes not from a sound, but from a change in the silence. A deep, instinctual knowledge, honed by years of routine and fear, tells you that the moment has come. It is a shift in the air, a subtle change in the pressure of the darkness. You are awake, instantly. Your eyes open to an absolute and perfect blackness. There are no windows in your cell in the ergastulum. The darkness is total, a thick, palpable void that presses in on all sides. It is not the comforting darkness of a peaceful night, but the oppressive, suffocating blackness of the tomb. You can feel the cold of the packed earth floor seeping up through the thin, lumpy straw of your palate, a damp, persistent chill that seems to find its way into your very bones, making them ache with a deep, familiar pain. The air is stale and heavy. It is thick with the smell of unwashed bodies, of old sweat, of the musty decay of the straw beneath you. It is the smell of humanity stripped of all dignity, the smell of confinement. For a single fleeting moment, you lie perfectly still, your body a leaden weight, refusing the command to move. You listen. The only sound is the soft, rhythmic breathing of the other 3 men who share your tiny, stone-walled space. One of them, an old Thracian captured in a war you cannot even imagine, snores with a low, rattling sound, a noise like stones being ground together in the dark. Another, a young Gaul, mutters in his sleep, the words of a forgotten language, spilling out in a soft, sad stream, perhaps a name, perhaps a prayer. This is the only world you know before the sun rises. The darkness, the cold, the smell, and the sound of sleeping, broken men. There is no time for reflection. There is no thought of the day to come, no memory of the day that has passed. To think is a luxury you cannot afford. To think is to remember a life before this one, a life of freedom that is now nothing but a phantom pain, like a limb that has been amputated but still aches. There is only the immediate, crushing reality of the present moment. Your body is a collection of aches, a dull, persistent pain in your lower back from the hard, unforgiving floor, a sharp twinge in your right shoulder from a day spent lifting heavy amphorae of wine. Your muscles are not rested, they are simply less tired than they will be in a few hours. The time for stillness is over. To linger is to risk the overseer's attention, and that is a risk you can never take. With a slow, deliberate effort that requires all your will, you swing your legs off the pallet. Your bare feet meet the shocking, biting cold of the earth. You do not shiver. Your body has learned long ago that such displays are a waste of precious energy. You stand up in the darkness, your movements slow and deliberate, a careful, silent choreography learned by heart to avoid bumping into the other sleeping forms. A single clumsy misstep, a stumble that wakes another man, could lead to a curse, a shove, a fight, and then, inevitably, the whip.
Your tunic is the only garment you own. It lies in a heap where you dropped it the night before. You find it by touch, your hands sweeping across the cold floor. The fabric is a coarse, heavy wool, stiff with dirt and sweat, scratchy against your skin. It is still damp from yesterday's labor, and it carries the faint, sour smell of your own exhaustion. You pull it over your head. It is not for comfort, nor for modesty. It is a uniform, a symbol of your station, the simple, earth-colored tunic of a domestic slave. You do not own shoes. Instead, you take 2 long strips of rough linen and begin the practiced, methodical ritual of wrapping your feet, providing a thin layer of protection against the cold stones and the filth of the villa's service areas. Your fingers, though clumsy with sleep,
perform the task with an ancient ingrained muscle memory. As you finish wrapping your feet, you hear it, a sound from the corridor outside. It is not a loud sound, but in the profound silence of the slave quarters, it is as jarring as a thunderclap. It is a heavy, rhythmic footstep, the sound of a single man walking with purpose and authority. It is the overseer, the monitor. He, too, is a slave, but one who has been granted a measure of authority over the others. This does not make him a comrade. It makes him the most dangerous man in your world. His comfort depends on your obedience, and his cruelty is a tool to ensure it. The footsteps stop directly outside your cell. You freeze, every muscle tensed. You listen. You hear the soft clink of the iron lamp he carries, the rustle of his tunic. Then the loud, grating sound of a heavy iron bolt being drawn back from the outside. It is the sound you know intimately, the sound of your world being opened and closed by another's hand. The door, made of thick, rough-hewn wood, groans open on its leather hinges. A sliver of light cuts through the darkness, a vertical blade of flickering, unsteady yellow. It illuminates the swirling dust motes in the air. The overseer's large silhouette fills the doorway, blocking most of the light. He is a wall of a man, his shoulders broad, his presence radiating a quiet menace. He does not speak. He does not need to. His presence is a command. He holds the tallow lamp up, its light glinting off the sweat on his brow and the hard polished surface of the short whip that hangs from his belt. His eyes, small and hard like chips of flint, sweep across the cell, taking in the scene in an instant. He sees the other men stirring from their pallets, their movements sluggish and filled with dread. He sees you standing, ready. He gives a slight, almost imperceptible nod, a gesture not of approval, but of simple acknowledgement that you have not broken the first rule of the day. The unspoken message is clear. Do not be late. He moves on to the next cell, and the sound of the next bolt being drawn echoes down the corridor, followed by a low groan from within. One by one, the slaves emerge from their cells, a silent procession of ghosts in the flickering lamplight. You join the line, your head down, your eyes fixed on the cracked, dirty heels of the man in front of you. You do not speak. You do not look at your fellow slaves. To do so is to invite trouble. In the ergastulum, a shared glance can be misinterpreted as a sign of conspiracy. A whispered word can be reported as the beginnings of a revolt. Silence is safety. Anonymity is survival. You are not men. You are a single, silent, functioning unit. You walk through the long subterranean corridor. The walls are rough-hewn stone, slick with a perpetual dampness that makes the air feel heavy and cold. The smell of mildew is strong here, a scent of earth and decay. The only light comes from the overseer's lamp at the head of the line and another held by a subordinate at the rear. Your shadows are thrown long and distorted against the walls, making the procession look like a parade of giants and monsters. You climb a steep flight of stone steps, your bare feet cold on the worn surfaces. The steps are uneven, and you must place your feet carefully to avoid stumbling in the dark. Finally, you emerge from the underground warren into the heart of the sleeping villa. The kitchen. It is a vast, cavernous space, the size of your entire village back home. The ceiling is high, lost in the darkness that the single lamp burning on a hook cannot penetrate. The air is cold, and the great central hearth, the source of all warmth and food, is a deep pit of gray, dead ash. The silence here is different from the silence of the cells. It is the silence of a great machine waiting to be turned on.
Your first task, assigned without a word, is to bring the great kitchen hearth back to life. It is the heart of the villa, and before the cooks arrive, it must be beating with warmth. You take a heavy iron shovel, its handle worn smooth and dark from years of use. The metal is cold to the touch. You step into the hearth, a space so large you can stand upright in it, and begin the slow, laborious process of clearing out the old ashes from the previous day's fires. The work is methodical, rhythmic. You scoop up the gray, feathery ash, the shovel grating against the stone floor of the hearth.
Each shovelful sends a small choking cloud into the air, which catches in the beam of the single lamp left burning, a swirling vortex of gray dust. The ash settles on your tunic, on your hair, on your skin. You can taste its bitterness on your tongue. You carry the ashes in a heavy wooden bucket to a designated pile in a corner of the kitchen courtyard, trip after trip, until the great hearth is swept clean, a cavern of black, cold stone. Once the hearth is clear, you must beld the fire. You go to a dry alcove where the kindling is kept, small dry twigs and wood shavings carefully gathered and stored to be protected from the damp. You carry an armful back to the hearth. You do not simply throw it in, you arrange it carefully, creating a small, hollow structure, a pyre in miniature, designed to catch a spark and nurture a flame. At its very center, you place the tinder, a piece of dried fungus as soft and delicate as old cloth. Then, from a hook on the wall, you take the flint and steel. You kneel before the hearth. The stones are cold against your knees. You hold the tinder steady with one hand, and with the other, you strike the sharp edge of the flint against the steel rod. Clink. No spark. You adjust your grip. Clink. A tiny, fleeting spark, gone in an instant. You strike again, a sharp, downward motion. Clinch! A shower of small sparks, one of them bright and orange, lands on the dark surface of the tinder. It does not burst into flame. It begins to glow, a tiny orange eye in the darkness, no bigger than a pinhead. Now comes the most delicate part of the process. You lower your head, your face close to the stone, and blow on it. Not a hard, sudden puff, but a gentle, steady, controlled stream of air. You feel a wave of dizziness from the effort in the stale air. You blow again. The ember grows brighter, expanding slowly. You add the smallest, driest twigs, placing them with the care of a surgeon directly over the glowing spot. A tiny wisp of white smoke rises, smelling of dry wood. Then a small, hesitant, blue flame flickers into life, dancing for a moment before vanishing. You blow again, more steadily this time. The flame returns, stronger, a small yellow tongue of fire that licks at the kindling. You spend the next several minutes nurturing this fragile new life. You add slightly larger twigs, then small pieces of split, dry wood, slowly, carefully, building the blaze until it is a strong, healthy fire, its warmth beginning to push back against the chill of the great room. Its light casts dancing, monstrous shadows on the high, soot-blackened walls, where rows of copper pots and pans hang like the shields of a defeated army, their polished surfaces reflecting the new flames. Your next task is even more demanding and far less rewarding. You must light the hypocast, the underfloor heating system that provides the miracle of warmth for the master's private chambers and the baths. You take a burning brand from the now roaring kitchen fire and descend another flight of stairs into the villa's true underworld. This is the furnace room, a dark, dusty space filled with massive stacks of chopped wood. The air here is thick with the smell of old ash and dry rot, a dead, stagnant air that has not moved in years.
You open the heavy iron door of the furnace, a great black mouth in the stone wall. You begin feeding it logs, one by one, until it is full. The work is heavy, your back already aching. Then you take the burning brand and thrust it deep into the heart of the wood pile. The wood catches slowly, smoldering at first, but soon a deep roaring sound fills the chamber, and a wave of intense, suffocating heat pours out of the furnace door. You will have to return here periodically throughout the day to feed this beast, a constant, draining task that will leave you soaked in sweat and covered in soot. Your muscles are already beginning to ache, but your work is far from over. Now you must fetch the water. You take 2 heavy wooden buckets, their staves bound with iron, and head out into the pre-dawn chill of the peristyle garden. The air here is clean and cool, a shocking, welcome contrast to the smoky furnace room. The stars are still visible in the dark sky above, cold and distant. You go to the villa's cistern, a deep, stone-lined well that collects rainwater. You lower a bucket on a thick, rough rope. It is heavy,
You pull it up, hand over hand, your shoulders and back straining, the rough rope chafing your palms. The water that comes up is cold and clear, a luxury you are not permitted to drink freely. You are allowed a small sip, cupping your hand to your mouth, but that is all. You begin the long, monotonous process of carrying the heavy buckets back and forth. You fill the great bronze cauldrons in the kitchen for the cooks. You fill the basins in the bathing complex for the master's family. Each trip is a struggle, the weight of the water pulling at your arms, the wooden handle of the buckets digging into your palms, leaving deep red grooves. You walk with a slow, shuffling gait, your body bent under the weight, your eyes fixed on the ground to avoid stumbling. Back and forth, back and forth. The sky slowly begins to lighten from black to a deep dark blue. By the time you are finished, the first faint gray light of dawn is beginning to appear in the eastern sky. The villa is stirring. You can hear the first sounds of the cooks arriving in the kitchen, the clatter of pots, the low murmur of their voices as they begin their day. You have been working for hours, in silence and in darkness, and for the masters of the house, the day has not yet even begun.
The kitchen is now a hive of activity. The head cook, a freed Gaul with a formidable temperament, barks orders, her crisp, clear voice echoing off the stone walls. Other slave kitchens bustle about, chopping vegetables, kneading dough, their movements a blur of practiced efficiency. You are invisible here, your initial tasks completed. Now your true primary function for the day begins. You are your master's personal slave, his cubicularius. Your duty is to attend to his person, a role of great intimacy and even greater danger. You leave the relative chaos of the kitchen and enter a different world. You pass through a heavy wool curtain that separates the service quarters from the main villa. The change is instantaneous. The air is no longer thick with smoke and the smell of cooking, but fresh, clean, and lightly scented with olive oil from the lamps and perhaps a hint of incense from the previous day's offerings at the household shrine. The floor is no longer rough stone, but a smooth, intricate mosaic depicting scenes from mythology. Your bare linen-wrapped feet seem out of place on its polished surface. The silence here is profound, but it is not the silence of emptiness. It is the silence of wealth, of power. It is a silence that demands respect. Your movements, which were merely cautious in the slave quarters, now become almost supernaturally stealthy. You don't walk, you glide. Your body tense, making no sound. You are a ghost in the house of the living. You approach a large, ornate wooden door at the end of the corridor. This is the master's cubicle, his bedroom. You don't knock. To knock would be to announce your presence, an unforgivable presumption. Instead, you wait. You stand perfectly still, your back against the cool plaster wall, your eyes fixed on the door, and you listen. You listen for the slightest sound, the slightest change in your master's breathing, a cough, a sigh, any sign that he's waking. The minutes pass. They seem like hours. Your body is rigid with tension. Your own breathing is shallow, almost silent. This is the most dangerous part of your day. Your master's mood upon waking will set the tone for the entire household. If he wakes up well, the day will be tolerable. If he wakes up unwell, the day will be a landscape of fear, punctuated by harsh words and the crack of the whip. You concentrate on the sounds of the villa waking in the distance. You can hear the hushed murmur of the maids in another part of the house. You hear the distant song of a bird in the peristyle garden. Each sound is a marker of the passage of time, heightening the tension of your wait. You stare at the intricate patterns of the wooden door, the grain of the wood, the bronze nail heads. You know every detail by heart. This door is the boundary between your world of silent servitude and his world of absolute power. Finally, you hear it. A low groan from inside the room, followed by the sound of rustling fabric. It's the signal.
With infinite care, you place your hand on the cold, heavy bronze handle of the door. You do not grip it. You let your fingers rest upon it, feeling its solidity, its stillness. You turn it slowly, millimeter by millimeter. Your muscles tense to prevent any sound, any click of the mechanism. The latch disengages with a soft, almost imperceptible thud. You push the door open just enough to slip through, a sliver of an opening, and then you close it behind you with the same agonizing slowness, ensuring the latch makes no sound as it settles back into its housing. You are inside. The room is dark, but not completely. The heavy wooden shutters are closed, but thin, precise lines of the new morning light pierce the darkness, striping the floor and the walls with pale gold. The air in here is warm and close, heavy with the scent of sleep, of the perfumed oil used in the lamps, and of the master's own body. It is a room of breathtaking luxury, a world away from your cell. The walls are covered in vibrant frescoes, paintings of mythological scenes, Leda and the Swan, the labors of Hercules, their colors rich and deep even in the dim light. The furniture is made of dark, polished citrus wood, inlaid with intricate patterns of ivory and silver. A single elegant chair with carved legs, a couch for reclining, a heavy chest for clothes. In the center of the room is the master's bed. It is a large raised platform of carved wood, with a soft mattress stuffed not with straw, but with wool, perhaps even feathers. The blankets are fine linen, and heavy wool dyed a deep, rich purple, a color of immense expense and status. And in the bed you can just make out the form of your master, Gaius Valerius Metellus, stirring under the covers. Your first task is to bring in the light. You move silently across the mosaic floor, your wrapped feet making no sound. You approach the tall windows. The shutters are heavy panels of wood. You do not simply throw them open. That would be a sudden, jarring intrusion of light and sound that would surely displease the master. Instead, you unlatch them with a practiced, silent movement of your fingers on the iron latch. Then you open them just a crack, allowing a single, thin blade of morning light to enter the room. You wait. You stand perfectly still, a shadow against the wall, and you listen to the master's breathing. It is still deep, regular. After a moment, you open the shutters a little wider, widening the beam of light. It now falls upon the foot of his bed. You wait again. His breathing changes slightly, a soft sigh. He is stirring. You continue the process, a slow, gradual introduction of the day, opening the shutters by inches, a process that takes several minutes, designed to wake the master gently, as if he were waking naturally with the rising sun itself. Finally, the shutters are fully open, and the soft, golden light of the morning fills the room, illuminating the dancing dust motes in the air. Now you prepare his morning ablutions. You move to a small, elegant table made of a dark, foreign wood. Upon it you place a silver basin, its surface polished to a mirror shine. You take a pitcher of water, not cold water from the cistern, but water that has been slightly warmed in the kitchen, the temperature checked with your own finger to ensure it is perfect, neither too hot nor too cold. You pour it into the basin, the sound a soft, musical trickle, the only sound in the quiet room. Beside it, you lay out a clean, folded linen towel and a small silver box containing a scented soap made of olive oil and ash, perfumed with lavender. Every object is placed with geometric precision. Your master is awake now. He sits up in bed, a man in his 50s, his body soft from a life of leisure, his face puffy with sleep. He does not look at you. He does not acknowledge your presence in any way. To him, you are not a person. You are a function, a part of the room's furniture that happens to move. You are the hands that open the shutters, the hands that pour the water, nothing more. He swings his legs out of bed and sits on the edge, his feet resting on a soft wool rug. He runs a hand through his thinning hair and lets out a deep, world-weary sigh. You stand by the wall, silent and motionless, your eyes lowered, waiting for the next unspoken command. Your existence in this room is one of anticipation, of reading the slightest shift in his posture, the smallest change in his breathing. You are a tool, waiting to be used.
Your master, Gaius Valerius Metellus, rises from the edge of the bed and moves towards the table where you have prepared his water. He dips his hands into the silver basin, the water cool but not cold, and splashes his face. He does not wash with the vigor of a working man, but with the slow, deliberate movements of someone for whom this is a mere formality. He runs his wet hands through his thinning hair. You stand by with the clean linen towel, holding it open for him. He takes it without looking at you, pats his face and hands dry, and then drops the towel onto the floor. You bend down silently to retrieve it, folding it neatly, your movements economical and invisible. Next is the shave. Another slave, the barber, Tonsor, enters the room silently. He is a specialist, a man whose entire value is tied to the steadiness of his hand. He carries a small bronze box containing his tools, a sharp razor, a small sponge, and a pot of softening lotion. You step back, becoming a shadow against the wall as the barber performs his dangerous task. You watch the razor glide across your master's throat. A single slip, a single tremor, and the consequences would be unthinkable. The master sits perfectly still, his eyes closed. The only sound is the soft, scraping sound of the blade on skin. When it is done, the barber wipes the master's face with a damp cloth, bows, and exits as silently as he came. Now, your most difficult and dangerous task of the day begins, dressing the master. You move to the heavy, carved wooden chest. You lift the lid, the hinges well-oiled and silent. Inside the clothes are neatly folded, smelling faintly of cedar and dried herbs used to ward off moths. You take out his garments for the day. First, the undertunic, the subucula, made of fine, soft linen, almost translucent. You hold it for him as he slips his arms into it, your fingers careful not to touch his skin. Then the main tunic, the tunica, made of a heavier, brilliant white wool. It is decorated with 2 vertical purple stripes, the clavi, running from the shoulders down, the unmistakable mark of his senatorial rank. Finally, you and another domestic slave who has entered silently lift the final garment from the chest. It is the toga. It is not a simple garment. It is a massive, unwieldy semicircle of heavy, white wool, nearly 20 feet long. It is a symbol of citizenship, of status, of power. And to drape it correctly is a complex art form, a skill that takes years to master. The way a man's toga hangs is a direct reflection of his dignity and his place in the world. A single misplaced fold, a clumsy drape, can bring ridicule in the forum, and that ridicule will be passed down to you, the slave who draped it, in the form of punishment. You hold the great weight of the cloth, one slave at each end. The master stands in the center of the room, patient but radiating an aura of silent, critical judgment. You begin the intricate, nerve-wracking process. You drape one end over his left shoulder, letting it hang down almost to his feet. You then take the great length of fabric and wrap it around his back, under his right arm, which he holds out stiffly, and then across his chest, creating a series of deep, elegant, and perfectly even folds. This is the most crucial part. The folds must be just right, not too tight, not too loose. Your fingers work deftly, tucking and pulling the heavy fabric. You are acutely aware of his breathing, of the warmth of his body through the tunic. You focus entirely on the folds of the cloth, your mind empty of everything but the task at hand. A single mistake, a single moment of clumsiness, and his day, and therefore yours, will be ruined.
Finally, you throw the remaining length of the toga back over his left shoulder, creating a final cascading drape. You then adjust the umbo, the puffed-out section of cloth at his waist, and the sinus, the long sweeping curve of the drape across the front. The process is a silent, tense dance between you, the other slave, and the master's unmoving form. Your hands must be clean. Your touch must be firm but respectful. You must not come too close, yet you must be intimate enough to perform the task. He looks down at your work, turning slightly from side to side. He then walks to a full-length mirror made of a large, highly polished sheet of bronze, which you hold steady for him. He inspects his reflection, his expression critical. He adjusts a single fold with his own hand, a minute correction that you should have anticipated. You feel a cold knot of fear in your stomach, but then he gives a slight, satisfied grunt. You have succeeded. A wave of relief so profound it is almost sickening washes over you. The other slave bows and exits. You kneel to put on his sandals, the cauche, intricate leather footwear appropriate for his rank. You tie the leather straps around his ankles, your head bowed, your eyes fixed on your task. You then present him with a small carved box containing his rings. He selects a heavy gold ring with a large engraved carnelian stone, his signet ring, and slips it onto his finger. He is ready to face the day, to go to the forum, to be a Roman senator. He walks out of the room without a word, without a glance in your direction. You are left alone in the now sunlit chamber with the unmade bed, the used water basin, the discarded towel on the floor, and the faint smell of his presence. Your most dangerous tasks of the morning are over. The relief is immense, but you know it is only temporary. The rest of the day, a long, featureless ocean of endless, mindless chores, is just beginning.
Once the master has departed, a profound but temporary emptiness fills his chambers. You do not have a moment to rest. Your next set of duties begins immediately. You tidy the room with swift, practiced efficiency. You smooth the heavy wool blankets on the bed, arrange the cushions, and collect the discarded towel from the floor. You take the silver basin and the pitcher, your fingers careful not to leave marks on the polished surfaces, and carry them back to the kitchen scullery. Here, your next task awaits you. It is a task that will consume the rest of your morning, a task of infinite repetition and mind-numbing tedium, the polishing of the household silver. You are led to a small, windowless room just off the main kitchen. The air here is cool and smells faintly of metal and old polish. In the center of the room is a long, sturdy wooden table. Upon it, laid out on a rough linen cloth, is a fraction of the master's immense collection of silverware. Plates, goblets, platters, spoons, and intricate serving dishes. It is your job to make them shine, to erase every spot, every tarnish, every fingerprint, until they gleam with a perfection worthy of the master's table. You are not alone. The monitor, the overseer, brings a small stool and sits in the corner of the room, his arms crossed. He does not speak. He simply watches. His presence is a constant, silent pressure, a reminder that your work is being judged, that any lapse in attention, any sign of laziness, will be noted and punished. You begin. The process is always the same. You take a small bowl of fine gray ash mixed with a little water to form a thick paste. This is your polish. You take a soft, worn piece of linen cloth. You select the first object, a heavy silver goblet, its surface decorated with a chaste pattern of grapevines and leaves. You dip the cloth into the ash paste and begin to rub, back and forth, back and forth. The movement is small, repetitive, confined to your hands and wrists. Your shoulders and back quickly begin to ache from leaning over the table. You must apply a firm, even pressure. Too soft, and the tarnish will not lift. Too hard, and you risk scratching the soft metal, a crime for which you would be severely punished. The minutes stretch into an hour. The only sound in the room is the soft, rhythmic shoo, shoo, shoo of your cloth against the silver, and the sound of the overseer's breathing in the corner. You do not dare to look up at him. Your entire world shrinks to the small circle of silver beneath your hands. You focus on the tiny, intricate details of the grapevine pattern, your cloth digging into every crevice, every leaf, every tendril. The work is not just physical. It is a mental battle against the crushing monotony. Your mind wants to wander, to drift away, but you cannot let it. A moment of inattention and a spot will be missed. You must remain present, focused on this single, meaningless task. You lose all track of time. The world outside this small dark room ceases to exist. There is only the table, the silver, the ash, and the silent, watchful presence of the overseer. After what feels like an eternity, the first goblet is done. You hold it up to the light of the single oil lamp. It gleams with a cool, white light. You inspect every inch of its surface, turning it slowly in your hands. It is perfect. You place it carefully on a clean cloth to your right, and select the next piece, a large, flat plate. And the process begins again. The dipping of the cloth, the application of the paste, the endless, circular rubbing. Shoo, shoo, shoo. Your fingers are raw, the skin abraded by the ash. Your back is a single solid knot of pain. But you do not stop. You cannot stop. You move from the plate to a spoon, from the spoon to a small, ornate dish. Each piece is a new mountain to climb, a new stretch of empty time to endure. The overseer does not move. He just sits, his eyes a constant weight upon you. You know that he is not just watching your work. He is watching your spirit. He is watching to see if you will falter, if you will show any sign of weakness or rebellion. And you know that you must show him nothing. You must be a machine, a tool that performs its function without complaint, without emotion. You erase yourself, becoming nothing more than the hands that polish the silver. This is how you survive the morning.
Just as you believe the silver polishing might never end, the overseer finally rises from his stool. He inspects your work, his critical eyes scanning the gleaming surfaces. He picks up a goblet, turns it over in the lamplight, and, finding no fault, gives a single, sharp nod. He does not offer a word of praise. The absence of punishment is your only reward. He gestures with his head towards the door. Your time in this dark, cramped room is over, but your labor is not. You follow him out of the scullery and back into the main part of the villa. He leads you to the atrium, the grand central reception hall of the house. The space is vast and breathtaking. The ceiling is open to the sky, a perfect square of brilliant blue, allowing sunlight to stream down and illuminate the entire hall. In the center of the atrium is the impluvium, a shallow rectangular pool lined with marble, designed to catch rainwater. The sunlight reflects off the surface of the water, casting shimmering, dancing patterns of light onto the high frescoed walls. The air here is warm and filled with a gentle, constant sound of water from a small decorative fountain. It is a space designed to inspire awe, to display the immense wealth and taste of its owner. But you are not here to admire it. The overseer points to the floor.
The entire floor of the atrium is a single, magnificent mosaic, a carpet of tiny colored stone and glass tiles, or tesserae. It depicts a complex mythological scene, Orpheus charming the wild animals with his lyre. You can see the figure of Orpheus himself, seated on a rock, his head tilted as he plays. Around him are gathered a lion, a stag, a wolf, and a dozen different birds, all of them captivated, their savage natures soothed by the divine music. The artistry is incredible. Each tiny tile is perfectly placed, creating flowing lines and subtle shades of color. It is a masterpiece, a work of art that would have taken a team of skilled artisans years to complete. Your task is to sweep it. The overseer hands you a broom. It is not a rough twig broom like the ones used in the service corridors. It is a soft broom, made of fine bundled reeds, designed not to scratch the polished surface of the tiles. He also gives you a wide, flat bronze dustpan. The task seems simple, but it is fraught with peril. You must remove every speck of dust, every fallen leaf that is drifted in from the open ceiling, every stray bit of dirt brought in on a sandal. But you must do so with the utmost care. To dislodge one of the tiny tesserae would be a disaster. To scratch the surface would be an unforgivable crime. You begin in a corner and work your way methodically across the floor. The movements are slow, deliberate, and repetitive. A gentle sweep, a soft gathering of the dust, and a careful collection into the pan. Sweep, gather, collect. The sun is warm on your back as you work. The sound of the soft broom on the tiles is a quiet, rhythmic swish, 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 a gentle, hypnotic sound that echoes in the vast, quiet hall. Your eyes are fixed on the floor, but you are not allowed to see the art. You must unsee the image. You cannot look at the face of Orpheus or the noble expression of the lion. You must only see the surface. You must only see the dust. Your world shrinks to the small square of mosaic directly in front of you. You see the tiny cracks between the tiles, the subtle variations in color, and the specks of dust that you must capture. It is a strange form of torture. You're surrounded by a beauty so profound it almost hurts, but you are forbidden to engage with it. You are the guardian of this beauty, but you are not allowed to be its audience. Your role is purely functional. You are the broom. You are the dustpan. You move slowly across the scene. Your broom passes over the face of a wolf, its head cocked as it listens to the music. You sweep away a fallen petal from the image of a dove perched on Orpheus's shoulder. You spend what feels like an hour cleaning just the central figure, your body aching from the stooped posture, your mind numb from the intense, mindless concentration. The work is long, and the sun moves across the sky, its light shifting across the floor, revealing new imperfections, new specks of dust you might have missed. The shimmering reflections from the impluvium dance around you, a beautiful, taunting display of light and water that you cannot enjoy. You are a ghost in this beautiful machine, your only purpose to keep it clean, to keep it running, for the benefit of others. The slow, methodical sweeping continues, another chapter in a day of endless, invisible labor.
Your work in the atrium is finally complete. The mosaic floor gleams, free of a single speck of dust. The overseer, who had been watching from the shade of a pillar, gives another of his curt, silent nods. He leads you away from the light and beauty of the main hall, back into the labyrinthine service corridors of the villa. You pass through the bustling kitchen, where the preparations for the midday meal, the prandium, are in full swing. The air is thick with the smells of baking bread, roasting meat, and simmering sauces. It is a world of abundance and flavor that is not for you. You are led to a small, attached building behind the main kitchen, the bakery. The air here is different. It is hot,
dry and thick with the fine white dust of flour, which coats every surface and hangs in the air, catching the light in hazy beams. In the center of this room stands a formidable machine, a symbol of pure brute labor. It is the hourglass-shaped millstone, the mola asinaria. It consists of a stationary cone-shaped lower stone, the meta, and a heavy, hollow upper stone, the catilus, which fits over it. A long wooden beam is fixed to the upper stone, extending outwards like the arm of a great beast. This is your next task. Before the bakers can make the fine white bread for the master's table, the grain must be ground into flour. While some large estates use donkeys or mules to turn the heavy stone, in this villa, that task often falls to the strongest of the domestic slaves. Today, that is you. The overseer gestures to the wooden beam. You step up to it. The wood is worn smooth and dark, polished by the desperate grip of countless hands before you. You place your hands on the beam and lean your full weight into it. For a moment, nothing happens. The stone is a dead, immovable weight. You push harder, your muscles straining, the tendons in your neck standing out. With a low, groaning sound of stone grinding on stone, the catilus begins to move. And so your true labor begins. You walk in a slow, endless circle, your body bent, your entire being focused on the single, repetitive motion of pushing the heavy beam. The world shrinks to this small, dusty circle. Your feet, wrapped only in linen, find a worn groove in the stone floor, a path created by years of this same relentless toil. The first few circuits are a pure struggle against inertia. Every muscle in your body screams in protest. Your shoulders, your back, your legs, they all burn with the effort. Sweat begins to bead on your forehead, then trickles down your face, stinging your eyes. The fine flour dust in the air sticks to your damp skin, creating a white, ghostly mask. After a time, a strange rhythm takes over. Your body, in an act of self-preservation, finds the most efficient way to move, to use your weight to keep the stone turning. Your mind, unable to cope with the sheer, crushing monotony, begins to shut down. You cease to think. You become a part of the machine. You are the force that turns the stone. There is only the push, the step, the groan of the stone, and the whisper of the grain being crushed into powder. Push, step, groan, whisper. The sound is constant, a low, grinding, hypnotic noise that fills the small room. Grrr, shh, grrr, shh. It is the sound of transformation, of hard grain becoming soft flour, of your own life force being ground down hour by hour. The sun climbs higher in the sky, its heat beating down on the roof of the bakery, turning the small room into an oven. The air is thick and difficult to breathe. You lose all track of time. Is it an hour? 2? 3? It does not matter. There is only the circle. At some point, another slave enters and pours a fresh bucket of wheat into the top of the catilus. He does not speak to you. You do not look at him. The machine must not stop. Finally, when your body feels as though it can go on no longer, when your muscles are trembling with exhaustion and your vision is blurred, the overseer returns. He gives a sharp rap on the wooden beam. You stop. The sudden silence is deafening. You stand for a moment, swaying, your body still feeling the phantom motion of the circle. It is time for your midday meal. It is not a rest. It is a refueling, a brief pause to provide your body with the energy to continue working. You are led to a corner of the kitchen courtyard where the other domestic slaves are gathered. There is no table, no benches. You sit on the hard, packed earth. A cook's assistant brings you your portion. It is a single wooden bowl filled with pulse, a thick, bland porridge made from boiled spelt or barley. It is warm, and it is filling, but it has no flavor. You are also given a small, hard piece of the same black bread from this morning, and a cup of posca, a mixture of water and sour wine, the common drink of soldiers and slaves. It is refreshing in its own way, the sourness cutting through the dust in your throat. You eat quickly, mechanically, without enjoyment. You have 15 minutes. You eat not for pleasure, but for fuel. Around you, the other slaves do the same, their faces blank with exhaustion. There is little conversation. There is nothing to say. Their lives are the same as yours. A shared, unspoken misery hangs in the hot, still air. The break is over as soon as it began. The overseer claps his hands. It is time to return to work. Your brief functional meal is finished. The long, hot afternoon of endless, mindless chores stretches out before you.
The afternoon is a long, featureless desert of toil. After the grinding work at the millstone, you are assigned a series of other tasks, each one as mindless and physically demanding as the last. You might spend an hour weeding the ornamental garden under the hot sun, your back aching, your fingers raw from pulling up stubborn roots. You might be ordered to scrub the stone floors of a long corridor, on your hands and knees, with a rough brush and a bucket of gritty cold water. There is no variation, there is no rest. The work is designed to fill every moment of the day, to leave no space for thought, no opportunity for idleness. As the sun begins to cast long shadows across the villa's courtyard, a new energy begins to build in the service quarters. It is a frantic, nervous energy. The time for the cena, the evening banquet, is approaching. This is the most important event of the master's day, a display of his wealth, power, and social standing. For the slaves, it is the most dangerous and stressful period of the entire day. A single mistake during the cena, a dropped plate, a spilled goblet of wine, or a moment of hesitation will not be overlooked. It will be punished, swiftly and publicly, to set an example. You are not a cook, so you are spared the intense, suffocating heat of the kitchen itself, where the head cook, a man of immense talent and terrifying temper, is orchestrating a symphony of culinary creation. But you are still part of the great machine. Your role is to assist, to prepare the stage for the performance to come. The overseer tasks you with fetching the wine for the evening. You descend into the villa's wine cellar, a cool, dark, and silent space. The air here is thick with the sweet, earthy smell of aging wine and damp stone. Rows upon rows of large clay amphora, sealed with wax, are stacked in wooden racks. Each one is marked with a small clay tablet, a piticum, indicating the vintage, the vineyard, and the quality. You are not to touch the finest vintages, the prize Falernian wine that is reserved for the master's most important guests. Your task is to select the good but not exceptional wine that will be served for the bulk of the meal. You carefully lift one of the heavy amphora onto your shoulder, your muscles straining under the weight, and carry it back up the steep stairs to the kitchen. There, another slave, the cellarios, the keeper of the cellar, will oversee the next step. The wine is not served pure. To drink undiluted wine is considered the mark of a barbarian. It must be mixed with water in a large ornate silver bowl called a crater.
The ratio of wine to water is a delicate matter, dictated by the master's preference. Tonight, it is 3 parts water to 1 part wine. You perform the task under the watchful eye of the Salarios, pouring the cool water from a pitcher, then the deep purple wine, the 2 liquids swirling together. Your next task is to prepare the triclinium, the formal dining room. You enter the room, and the opulence is, as always, a shock. The walls are covered in magnificent, colorful frescoes depicting scenes of feasting and merriment. 3 large couches, each wide enough for 3 people to recline on, are arranged in a U shape around a central, low table. The couches are made of polished wood, inlaid with ivory and tortoiseshell, and covered with rich embroidered cushions. You and 2 other slaves begin the methodical process of preparing the room. You sweep the mosaic floor one last time, you adjust the cushions on the couches, you light the dozens of small, elegant oil lamps that are placed in niches in the walls and on tall bronze stands. The lamps are filled with perfumed olive oil, and as you light them, a soft, warm glow fills the room, and the air becomes fragrant with the scent of lavender and rose. You bring in small, low tables, 1 for each couch, where the guests will place their cups. Every object must be perfectly placed. The room must be a flawless stage, ready for the drama of the evening. As the final preparations are made, you are summoned by the overseer. He inspects you from head to toe. Your tunic must be clean. A fresh one is provided for the evening service. Your hands and feet must be washed. Your hair must be neat. You must be a perfect, unobtrusive part of the scenery. He looks you in the eye, his expression hard. "Not a single mistake," he says, his voice a low growl. "This is the only instruction you need." You take your position, standing against the wall in the corridor just outside the triclinium, your back straight, your hands clasped before you. You become a living statue. You can hear the first sounds of the master and his guests approaching, their voices loud, their laughter echoing in the marble corridors. The performance is about to begin.
The guests arrive. They are a procession of wealth and power. You see other senators, their togas a brilliant, almost luminous white in the lamplight. You see wealthy merchants, their clothes perhaps even more ostentatious than the senators, adorned with gold thread and heavy jewels. The ladies are equally magnificent, their hair styled in complex, towering arrangements, their necks and arms glittering with gold and precious stones. Their laughter is light and musical, a sound from another world. As they enter the triclinium, they do not sit, but recline, 3 to a couch, leaning on their left elbows. This is the posture of leisure, of civilization. You and the other serving slaves enter the room, your movements synchronized and silent. Your first task is to remove their sandals. You kneel before each guest, untie the leather straps of their footwear, and gently slip them off. Another slave follows with a basin of warm, rose-scented water and a linen towel to wash and dry their feet. It is an act of profound subservience, performed with your eyes fixed on the floor. You are less than the dust on their feet. Once the guests are comfortable, the banquet begins. The first course, the gustatio, or appetizer, is served. It is a series of small, delicate dishes designed to whet the appetite. You carry a heavy silver tray laden with them. There are stuffed dates, tiny sausages, olives from Spain, and shellfish served with a sharp, garlicky sauce. The smells are intoxicating. Your own stomach, which has only known coarse bread and bland porridge, clenches with a painful, empty hunger. But you must show no reaction. Your face must remain a blank, impassive mask. Your role is to move silently around the couches, offering the tray to each guest. You must hold it perfectly steady. You must anticipate which dish a guest will choose, moving the tray slightly to make it easier for them to reach. You must do all of this without speaking, without making eye contact, without existing as a person. You are an extension of the tray you carry. The conversation flows around you, a river of Latin spoken with the clear, educated accent of the elite. You hear snippets of political gossip from the forum, discussions of a new shipment of grain from Egypt, a critique of a poet's latest work. It is a world of immense power and culture, and you are a silent witness to it, understanding everything, but belonging to none of it. Your most constant and dangerous task is serving the wine. You hold the silver pitcher, Urseus, filled with the crater-mixed wine. You move from guest to guest, refilling their silver goblets, the pocula. The task requires immense concentration. You must pour a steady stream, without a single drip falling on the white linen of the couch, or worse, on a guest's toga. A single drop of red wine on a white toga would be a catastrophe, a stain of carelessness that would be answered with immediate and severe punishment. Your hand must be as steady as a rock, even as your muscles ache from holding the heavy pitcher. As the first course is cleared away, the main courses, the prime mensae, begin to arrive from the kitchen. This is the true display of the master's wealth. Great platters are brought in, carried by 2 slaves at a time. You see a whole roasted boar, decorated to look as if it were still alive, its mouth holding an apple. You see exotic birds, their feathers reattached after cooking, served in a towering pyramid. You see fish baked in elaborate sauces, dishes of vegetables cooked in honey and spices. The sheer abundance is staggering. You move back and forth between the kitchen and the triclinium, a silent, efficient cog in the great machine of the banquet. You carry away empty plates. You bring in fresh ones. You refill wine goblets. The room grows hotter, filled with the heat of the lamps and the press of bodies. The conversation grows louder, fueled by the wine. The guests become less guarded, their laughter more boisterous. You must remain vigilant. An inattentive guest might suddenly shift their position on the couch, and you must be ready to move out of the way. A drunken guest might make a clumsy gesture, and you must be ready to catch a falling goblet. You are in a state of constant, heightened awareness, your mind focused entirely on preventing any disruption, any mistake. The master, Gaius Valerius, is in his element. He laughs, he tells stories, he presides over the feast with an air of effortless command. At one point, he looks in your direction and snaps his fingers, pointing to an empty wine goblet. He does not use your name. He does not use a word, just a sound, a gesture. The snap of a finger is enough to summon you. You move forward, your pitcher ready, and refill the cup. Your movements smooth and invisible. He does not thank you. He does not even look at you. He is already turning back to his conversation. The banquet continues, course after course, hour after hour. You are a ghost, a shadow. Your own hunger, your own exhaustion, your own existence entirely forgotten, subsumed by the single, all-consuming task of service.
The main courses are finally cleared away, a battlefield of half-eaten delicacies and discarded bones. But the feast is not over. Now comes the secundae mensae, the second meal, which corresponds to what we would call dessert. You and the other slaves bring in new trays laden with sweet things. There are fruits glistening with honey, figs from Africa, dates from Judea, and expensive pale green grapes. There are small cakes made with flour, nuts, and sweetened with honey. There are cheeses, both soft and hard, served with a variety of sweet fruit preserves. By now, the guests are deep in their cups. The atmosphere in the triclinium is changed. The witty, intellectual conversation of the early evening has given way to louder, more boisterous talk. Laughter comes more easily, and it is coarser. The guests' movements are less precise. A senator, reclining on a couch, gestures too widely while telling a story and knocks over his silver goblet. Red wine, the color of blood, splashes across the pristine white linen of the couch and drips onto the mosaic floor. For a moment, the room falls silent. The senator looks at the stain with a vague, drunken annoyance. The master, Gaius Valerius, frowns, a deep line of displeasure creasing his forehead. Your heart freezes. You and another slave instantly move forward. You do not run, that would be unseemly. You move with a swift, silent urgency. One of you uses a clean cloth to blot the spill on the couch, while you kneel on the floor, using another cloth to carefully wipe the wine from the polished tiles, your movements quick and efficient, erasing the mistake. The master says nothing. He simply makes a sharp flicking gesture with his hand. It is a sign of dismissal, but it is also a sign of profound anger, an anger that will be stored and remembered, to be unleashed later, away from the eyes of his guests. You have cleaned the spill, but the tension in the room remains. The feast continues, but the edge of danger is now sharper. You are more vigilant than ever, watching the drunken guests with a hawk's eye, anticipating their clumsy movements, ready to intervene before another mistake can be made. Finally, after what seems like an entire lifetime, the master claps his hands. The banquet is over. The guests, their movements slow and heavy with food and wine, begin to rise from the couches. You and the other slaves move forward to assist them, helping them find their footing, bringing them their sandals which you had stored away hours ago. You kneel once more, strapping the leather sandals onto their feet. The air is thick with the smell of wine and the heavy perfumes of the guests. They talk and laugh amongst themselves as they prepare to depart, stepping over you as if you were a piece of furniture. They leave in a slow procession, their voices echoing down the marble corridor as they are escorted to their litters or to the guest chambers of the villa. The master accompanies his most important guests to the door. And then you are left alone in the wreckage of the triclinium. The room, which was a stage of flawless perfection only a few hours ago, is now a scene of devastation. The beautiful cushions are stained with wine and grease. The floor is littered with discarded olive pits, crumbs of bread, and gnawed bones that the guests have simply thrown over their shoulders. The air is stale and heavy with the smell of old food, spilled wine, and the dying smoke from the oil lamps. There is no rest. The cleaning begins immediately. Under the cold, watchful eye of the overseer, you and the other slaves start the long, arduous process of restoring order. You collect the dozens of silver plates, goblets, and platters, their surfaces smeared with the remnants of the feast. You scrape the leftover food into a wooden bucket. This will be a rare treat for the pigs in the morning. You carry the silver back to the scullery, where it will be washed by other slaves in large tubs of hot water. Then you return to the triclinium. You carefully remove the stained linen covers from the couches. You pick up every last crumb and bone from the floor. Then you take buckets of water and soft cloths and begin the painstaking process of washing the mosaic floor, removing every sticky patch of spilled wine, every greasy smear. The work is exhausting, your body already screaming with fatigue from a day that began more than 18 hours ago. Finally, after hours of cleaning, the triclinium is restored to its former perfection. The floors are clean, the couches are bare, and the air is beginning to clear. The overseer makes a final inspection. He finds a single tiny fishbone that was missed under one of the couches. He does not shout. He simply picks it up, shows it to the slave responsible for that section, his eyes cold and hard. The slave flinches, knowing that this small oversight will be remembered and punished tomorrow. Your duties for the evening are finally over. The overseer gives a final dismissive gesture. You are free to go. You do not walk, but shuffle out of the main villa, your body a single, solid ache. You're a ghost, a shadow. Your own hunger, your own exhaustion, your own existence entirely forgotten, subsumed by the single, all-consuming task of service. The only thing left is the final, long walk back to the darkness of your cell.
The triclinium is finally clean, restored to its pristine, silent perfection, a ghost of the feast that took place there. But your work is not yet done. The master's house, a vast and complex organism, must be put to sleep. You are tasked with extinguishing the lamps, a final, solitary ritual that marks the true end of the day. You take a small bronze snuffer, a long rod with a small cup at the end, and begin a slow, silent patrol of the villa's main corridors and chambers. You are the keeper of the shadows, the one who brings the night. You start in the grand atrium. The moonlight now streams down from the open ceiling, pooling in the impluvium and turning the water into a sheet of liquid silver. The shimmering reflections, which had been so vibrant and alive during the day, are now slow, ghostly, and silent. The air is cool and still. You move from lamp to lamp. Each one is a small, elegant terracotta or bronze vessel, filled with olive oil, a single wick burning with a soft, steady flame. You raise the snuffer, your movements slow and deliberate to avoid making any sound. You place the small cup over the flame. The flame struggles for a moment, dancing wildly, and then, with a soft, final hiss, it is extinguished. A thin wisp of gray smoke, smelling of hot oil and burnt wick, rises into the air and disappears into the darkness. You move to the next lamp, and the next. With each flame you snuff out, the shadows in the atrium grow longer, deeper, reclaiming the space. The vibrant colors of the frescoes on the walls, the blues, the reds, the golds, become muted, fading into shades of gray and black. The room seems to grow larger, emptier, its opulence swallowed by the encroaching night. You leave the atrium and move into the library. The air here is different, thick with the dry, papery scent of scrolls and old wood. A single lamp was left burning on the scribe's desk. You approach it. The desk is a landscape of forgotten work. A scroll left half unrolled, a stylus, a pot of dried ink. You raise the snuffer. The flame dies, and the rows upon rows of silent scrolls in their cubbyholes disappear into a profound, scholarly darkness. The knowledge of the world is here, but tonight it sleeps. You continue your patrol through the long, echoing corridors. Your wrapped feet make no sound on the mosaic floors. You are a ghost, your only purpose to erase the light. You pass the master's closed cubiculum, holding your breath, your movements becoming even more stealthy. You pass the guest chambers, all silent and dark. The villa, which was a stage of vibrant, noisy life only a few hours ago, is now a silent, sleeping tomb. You are the last one awake, the last one moving through its silent heart. The responsibility is heavy. You are not just extinguishing lights, you are closing the eyes of the house, drawing a final dark curtain over the day. The only light now is the pale, ghostly light of the moon, which seems to make the shadows even deeper, even more mysterious. Your task is almost complete. The villa is asleep. Now all that remains is for you to find your own small piece of oblivion. Your duties in the main villa are finally complete. The overseer, his own form a mere shadow in the gloom, gives a final dismissive gesture. You are free to go. The words are not spoken, but the meaning is clear in his tired, indifferent posture. You do not walk, but shuffle out of the opulent heart of the villa. You pass back through the heavy wool curtain, a thick, muffling barrier between two worlds. You leave the realm of marble floors and mosaic art behind and re-enter the world of rough stone and packed earth. The service corridors are silent now, the kitchen dark and empty, smelling of cold ash and stale food. You are one of the last to finish your duties. The long walk back to the ergastulum is a journey through a landscape of profound exhaustion. Every step is an effort. Your feet, which have been on the move for nearly 20 hours, feel like blocks of lead, numb and yet aching at the same time. Your back is a single solid knot of pain, a constant dull throb from the bending and lifting, from the hours spent standing motionless. Your arms are heavy and weak from carrying trays and pitchers, a deep weariness settled into the muscles. A fine tremor of fatigue runs through your entire body, a vibration you cannot control. You reach the steep stone steps that lead down into the subterranean slave quarters. There is no light here. You place a hand on the cold, damp stone wall to guide you and begin your descent into the earth. The air changes instantly. It becomes cooler, heavier, thick with the familiar smell of mildew and unwashed bodies. After the perfumed air of the master's chambers, the stench is almost overpowering, a grim physical reminder of your place in this world. It is the smell of your reality. The steps are uneven and worn, and you must place your feet carefully to avoid stumbling in the pitch darkness. You know these steps by heart, by the feel of the stone beneath your feet. You know the one that is chipped, the one that is slightly lower than the others. You move through the darkness with a practiced, shuffling gait. You reach the bottom and enter the long, straight corridor of the ergastulum. It is not a place for humans. It is a place for storing tools, and you are one of them. The air here is stagnant, never touched by the sun or a fresh breeze. The only sound is the soft, rhythmic breathing and snoring of the other slaves, a sound that echoes slightly off the stone walls. You navigate the corridor by memory, counting the doors to your own cell. The darkness is absolute. You reach your doorway, a simple, dark opening in the stone. You slip inside. The darkness here is different from the darkness of the villa. It is not the clean, empty darkness of a silent, wealthy house. It is a thick, close, living darkness filled with the sounds and smells of other sleeping men. The snores of the old Thracian are a low, rattling drone. The young Gaul mutters and twitches in the throes of some unhappy dream. The air is heavy with their shared, exhausted breath. You do not have the energy to feel resentment or even fear. You only feel a bone-deep weariness that transcends all other emotions. Your body craves only one thing: oblivion.
You do not undress. The coarse wool tunic is a second skin, and the energy required to remove it is more than you possess. You simply collapse onto your straw pallet. The rustle of the dry straw is a loud sound in the quiet cell. It is not a soft bed. The straw is lumpy and prickly, and you can feel the hard, cold earth through its thin layer. But it is a place to stop moving, a place to let the crushing weight of your own body finally rest. You curl into a tight ball, an instinctual posture of self-preservation, your body seeking a warmth it cannot find. You pull this single, coarse wool blanket over your shoulders. It is thin, threadbare in places, and does little to ward off the subterranean chill, but it is something. It is a meager barrier against the vast, indifferent darkness. You close your eyes. The darkness behind your eyelids is the same as the darkness of the room. There is no distinction. Your mind, which has been in a state of hypervigilance all day, calculating, anticipating, fearing, finally begins to let go. It does not happen all at once. The events of the day replay themselves, not as clear thoughts, but as a jumble of fleeting, ghostly images and sounds, like echoes in a deep well. You see the angry, red face of the merchant in the market. You feel the phantom weight of the silver platter in your aching arms. You hear the sharp, critical voice of the head cook. You see the shimmering, dancing light on the mosaic floor. You feel the cold splash of wine on your hand. You see the dark, menacing silhouette of the overseer in the lamplight. They are fragments, pieces of a day you have survived, but that has taken a piece of you and return. You try to push the images away.
You focus on the physical sensations of the present moment, grounding yourself in the reality of your cell. You feel the rough texture of the blanket against your cheek. You feel the slow, deep ache in your lower back. You feel the persistent, maddening itch of a flea bite on your ankle, and you resist the urge to scratch, knowing it will only make it worse. You are aware of the moist, shared warmth of the other sleepers in the room, a closeness that offers no comfort, only a sense of confinement. The sounds of the night become your new reality. The snoring of the old Thracian is a low, rattling drone, a constant, predictable rhythm. In and out. A rasping sound, a pause, then a low whistle. The young Gaul mires and twitches in the throes of some unhappy dream, his legs kicking out, his hand brushing against your palate. The scratching of the rat in the wall returns, a familiar, unwelcome companion. Scratch, scratch, pause, scratch. It is a sound of secret, unseen life, a reminder that you are not the only creature struggling to survive in the darkness of this villa. But somehow, these sounds, which would have kept a stranger awake with fear, become a strange sort of lullaby for you. They are the sounds of your world. They are predictable. They are constant. And in their constancy there is a strange sort of peace. They become part of the tapestry of the night, and your mind, utterly exhausted, begins to let go of the day. You focus on your own breathing, a slow, steady rise and fall of your chest, in and out. The air is heavy and stale, but it is still air. You are still breathing. The aches in your body begin to fade, not disappearing, but becoming distant, as if they belong to someone else. The sounds of the other sleepers, the snoring, the muttering, they blurred together into a single low hum, a drone that fills the darkness. The scratching of the rat in the wall becomes part of the rhythm, a tiny percussion in the symphony of the night. The world outside the cell, the villa, the master, the city, it all begins to fade. It is a dream you are leaving behind, a world that cannot touch you here in the dark. There is only the darkness and the silence and the slow, heavy, irresistible pull of sleep. It is not a gentle sleep. It is not a restful sleep. It is a deep, dark, dreamless oblivion, a temporary death, the only true escape you will ever know. And as your consciousness finally dissolves, unraveling like a thread into the profound, silent blackness, you do not think of tomorrow, you do not hope, you do not fear. You simply cease to be. Until the overseer's footsteps in the corridor summon you back to life once more.